I'm Eric Newton, and this is The Together Show. We all know relationships take work, but what is that work, and how do we do it? As a former divorce lawyer, I've watched thousands of couples break up firsthand. Having seen the worst in relationships, I decided to try to help couples stay together. So on this show, we talk to real couples and find out what love really looks like.
I wrote in that journal that I was going to marry him someday and a bunch of other adolescent stuff. And then he sent me a letter in the mail, and it was 10 reasons why I want you for my wife.
Welcome to the show, everyone. Thanks for listening. We're creating a radio program based on our podcast, and we're looking for questions from listeners about relationships. So if you have a question or if you'd like some advice about your relationship, give us a call and leave us a message at 415-483-5112. We'll get right back to you, and hopefully we can include you in our pilot episode. Once again, that number is 415-483-5112. Now on to the show. Today's episode is about a junior high love affair that turned into an exceptionally strong marriage, 4 lovely kids, and 1 gorgeous organic farm. When I was a little kid, we would often visit my mom's family in Michigan during the summers. My mom has a huge family, 11 brothers and sisters, and that means a constantly growing crop of hilarious, fun-loving cousins for me to play with. And I had a special place in my heart for my cousin Andrea. She was just a couple years older than me, but she seemed terribly sophisticated to me. I basically followed her everywhere I could, and I was never happier than when she was feathering my hair or dressing me up for an outing to Meijer's grocery store. Those were good times, but I lost track of Andrea as an adult for the most part. And when I learned a few years back that she had started up an organic farm with her husband, I honestly couldn't have been more surprised. But the truth was, I didn't know anything about Andrea as an adult. All I had were those vague childhood memories of that sweet redheaded girl. So, during a recent family visit back to Michigan, I took a detour up to the farm to try and get to know my cousin Andrea and her family a little bit better. So we sat down with margaritas on a warm, rainy Michigan evening in the house that Andrea and Ryan built themselves on the farmland that they bought after saving for years. And while the kids watched a movie downstairs, I got to learn how my cousin Andrea first met the love of her life. I'll let them tell the story. So with that, let's go to our interview with my cousins, Andrea and Ryan.
We had this close relationship when I was a tiny kid, but I don't know much about your adult life. I really don't know anything except these little snippets. Mm-hmm. And I definitely don't know how you met. So fill me in. How'd you guys meet?
So when I was a kid in middle school, I had a really good friend named Julie Mann, and she invited me to come up to her summer cottage on Little Glen Lake. Her parents let each of their daughters choose a friend to come up, so I was the lucky one. And when we got there, after settling in, we took a walk around, and these cottages were small, like 2 bedrooms, and then a kitchen, living room combined, and they were square. So you can imagine they weren't really very big. So we walked outside, and on the deck next door, there was a really cute boy. And we walked over and said hello. Of course, Julie and I were really confident with each other in our friendship, and we had for middle schoolers, we had a really deep relationship and a good connection where we felt like we could be totally who we really were outside of school. And with each other in school, we always knew each other had like genuine care for each other. And that's hard to find when you're 13, 14 years old.
Yeah.
You know, so I appreciated her so much, and she really was a great friend. And then she invited me up there, and we were ourselves. And we were silly and goofy, and we met the cute boy next door, and we just invited him into our world, and there's some other teenagers around. And for the entire week, I don't think we did much without a group of 6 or 7, sometimes 9 teenagers.
Oh, those are great summers.
Yeah.
Do you remember? Oh, of course you remember.
Yeah, I was 14 and in the midst of middle school social drama of my own. I guess it was not serious drama, but just that kind of middle school awkwardness. And seeing Andrea and Julie and how open they were, and they were just seemed unpretentious. It was a kind of a breath of fresh air compared to what I was seeing in my school, where people were really focusing on their image and, you know, what side of themselves they're putting forward. And so I was really, and then of course I was attracted to her physically at that age.
Yeah.
So she definitely caught my eye, but just kind of the invitation for me to be me was very attractive.
What an unusual thing for that age.
Yeah.
And I remember too, Andrea, you were, if I remember, you were the cool kid at your school, or one of them, right?
Well, I feel like I wasn't, especially in middle school.
I guess that's how everybody feels, really.
Right. Yeah, I think so too. I think the older you get, the more you realize that's everyone's story. No, I wasn't, but these people were.
Yeah.
So at that time in my life, I really, 8th grade was the worst year of my life. 9th grade was a little bit better.
Yeah.
But 7th and 8th were just, I felt physically sick at school.
Yeah. Oh.
Just really felt like it wasn't a safe place except for my friend Julie.
Wow. What a wonderful thing that you were able to have that safety and that full expression with her.
Yeah.
That's pretty unusual, I think.
Yeah.
And then you got to meet Ryan. So did you, well, you didn't live in the same town, did you?
No, we were about 40 miles apart. So after that week together, solid on the beautiful northern Michigan lake, we were definitely connected and continued that relationship through letters to each other.
Now, here's a question. Did you meet her? Did she meet your parents on that
She
trip?
met my parents. Her parents were not there, but my parents were there.
Oh, great.
My parents brought me up to the cottage to, they were renting it for the week. And
so then you stayed in touch by writing each other.
Yeah, we
Could
did.
you get any more romantic?
But I have to tell you, we didn't actually kiss. We didn't actually probably spend very much time alone together because we were with a gang of 7 to 9 kids.
Well, was it even romance at that point?
We
or was
really
it-
liked each
Yeah.
other.
Oh, really?
a lot.
it was one of my great regrets that I left that summer without kissing her.
Oh, yeah. You got to have that regret, though, because that's what pushes you forward.
Yeah.
So I went home and wrote in my journal that I was going to marry him.
Really?
Yeah, I did. So I wrote in that journal that I was going to marry him someday, and a bunch of other adolescent stuff. And then he sent me a letter in the mail, and it was 10 reasons why I want you for my wife.
Oh, my gosh.
That's after 1 week together.
Tell me you still have that letter.
We do. When we were married, in many years later, they were side by side at our wedding.
Your diary
My diary entry and his letter.
What did you do when you got that letter?
I honestly don't remember the finer details, but I saved it, so it was very meaningful to me.
Yeah, it must have been.
As a young lady, you do receive love notes from other people, and I don't have any of those, but I have that. I saved that letter.
Well, I'm so glad you saved it. Now I want to put it on the website.
It's quite humorous coming from a 14-year-old.
Yeah, I think he said, you are sporty and I am sporty.
We will do sporty things together.
Or watch hockey games.
Yeah.
You like dogs and I like dogs. We will have it.
Shared values. You can't knock.
I think it's a good foundation.
14-year-old wisdom had it right. That's so good. So, wow. So, well, you must have dated other people before you got married.
Well,
right?
he's in middle school and I'm so we're 40 miles apart. This is before cell phones. This is
Yeah.
just the dial-up phone that actually costs money, and it's long distance.
Right.
So we wrote back and forth. We actually convinced our moms to meet in Grand Haven and spend a night in August after we'd come back. And my mom didn't know his mom or family, but it was really sweet of her to bring me up there. And of
That's
course,
so sweet
Julie
of her.
came and some of our friends came, and we walked around Grand Haven together, which is a nice little coastal town on Lake Michigan. And then school started, and we didn't really keep in touch. I think we wrote a couple letters throughout the year, but it wasn't constant.
Yeah.
And then the next summer came around, and we went to the cottage again.
And
I went
timed
with
it right.
Julie. Well,
Yeah.
originally we weren't going to be at.
So my parents end up buying the cottage on Glen Lake, and they scheduled our week that we were going to have. It was a different week than the week she was going to be up there. And I'm like, Mom, this can't happen. It's like, you own the cottage. We got to stay the same week Andrea's going to be there.
I mean, of all the...
Come on.
It's so simple. Just
Yeah.
time this one thing.
And she listened. She kind of adjusted the schedule.
Which I
and,
think
That
is
is-
pretty cool.
That's amazing
because
of her.
You were 15.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
she actually, this was a financial plan to just go up to the cottage for a week and rent it out the rest of the season, which is a short, in Northern Michigan, your season is mid-June to the end of August.
Oh, yeah. It's not
And
long.
that helps pay for the new cottage. So that was
Yeah.
quite a expensive thing for her to say, okay, Ryan, we'll let you stay another week.
Yep. It was very nice. But she always liked you.
Still does, clearly. I met her
Yeah.
today.
I think she thought you were good for me.
So, well, okay, but we're only at 15 here. So,
This is gonna be a long conversation.
so how did it develop into what it is?
Well, we had a special place in each other's heart, but I was, even though I'm a year and a half older than him, I was 2 grades ahead of him.
You are a stud. Let me just tell you.
So I got to this point, I think I was getting more attention from guys and getting a little older, and I was in 10th and 11th grade. I told you before that the younger grades were hard for me, but these grades were not. I felt more confident in myself and had a group of nice kids at high school to hang out with, and I did have boyfriends. And we kept in touch, and whenever we would talk on the phone, I didn't talk about those boyfriends because I felt like it wasn't that meaningful. Like even then, you kind of know when you're not really in a meaningful, long-lasting relationship.
Yeah,
And I didn't want to hurt his feelings.
sure.
But at that time, I just felt like I was older, and at times just in a different phase of life. And I knew that he really had a special place in his heart for me as well. And I just didn't want to bring it up.
Well, a special place in the heart is one thing, but it sounds like you might have had a deeper sense back then of what was to come.
Yes and no. I mean, I think when we met, definitely connected and we had a heart connection. But the reality is you're going to school and you're growing and changing and discovering things just like most teenagers are.
Yeah.
And there was no such thing as cell phones, and he couldn't even drive until he was 16.
Right.
And 40 minutes doesn't seem like a long time now, but it is when you're a kid.
Sure. Might as well be another state. So, did you know she was dating?
Yeah, I mean, over time throughout high school, and I started dating too, and but my thing was like whenever I'd start seeing a girl, my thing was about 3 months it would last, and pretty much every girl I would spend time with I'd compare to Andrea.
Yeah.
And
It's hard not to
take
do.
about 3 months to figure out it's not Andrea, and I'd kind of want out of the relationship. So that's kind of how I spent my high school. I did invite her to my senior prom,
Which I
which
accepted.
she was coming from
It was
Michigan State
fun.
from college.
Wow, that's great. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That must have been great to have a college kid there with you. It's
It
prob-
was. It was really pretty cool.
Did she kiss you?
You know what? So we danced very fine together, a little more mature than a lot of the high school kids, but we didn't kiss that night, but she stayed at my parents' house because she's from out of town and we were out late, and I was in my basement bedroom and she slept upstairs, but in the morning she woke me up with a kiss. So that was pretty special.
That's a great way to wake up.
Yeah.
And then I think I left within 10 minutes because it's totally inappropriate to be in his bedroom.
Oh, you mean you left the bedroom or the house?
No, just the bedroom.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Like his mom said, "Hey, can you go wake up Ryan?" And I was like, "Sure." And I went downstairs, woke him up, and then came back upstairs like a good girl.
What about morning breath?
He was so cute when he was sleeping. It didn't matter.
That's great.
No.
Okay. Well, all right. So then college and, well, I guess I got to hear the whole story at this point. We're committed.
Yeah, so I went to college. I went to Michigan State, and I did actually have a serious boyfriend, and it was a roller coaster ride of constant drama, unmet expectations and anger, and then everything's great, and I'm sorry. And of course, from my point of view, he was being a jerk and then being cool, and then being a jerk and then being cool. And it was like an on and off relationship, that it was really, like looking back, I don't know why I stood in it that long and I wasn't being treated very well. Maybe because he was older than me, he was kind of mysterious and kind of hard to get. It's probably a trap a lot of women fall into.
Sure, yeah.
And then when it was over, Ryan and I would infrequently, we would see each other. And when I would come home to Muskegon, we'd call each other and like just go out for coffee or go to Denny's and goof around and talk and stuff. But when it was over, it was just so startling, the contrast of being with my true friend who loved me no matter what. I mean, it didn't have to be, we weren't even in a romantic relationship, and he truly loved me and cared about my well-being, and he would have never treated me that way. So that's when I started to think, this is the kind of person I really want to be with for life, not what I had been mixed up in for a while.
Yeah. I wonder how you hold the fact of that relationship or the way that relationship went, that college relationship that wasn't so healthy. Do you think that was because you two were just a bad match, or was it something different?
You mean why it didn't work out?
Why did it go the way that it did in terms of the pain and the drama?
Oh, I definitely think we were a bad match. I'm sure wherever he is, he's matured by now, just like I have. And hopefully he's with his true love, but we really weren't compatible. There's a lot of ways that we weren't the same personality types.
Do you think you drew something out in each other that was...
I was always trying to help him or help him achieve what I felt the level of character or personality that I felt like he could be at.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Totally, yeah.
Like I was always looking at his potential, not really enjoying who he really was. Maybe.
Versus with Ryan.
With Ryan, we're so compatible on so many levels. I never looked at Ryan like, he has so much potential, but if I could just get him to this place, I'd be so much happier. I've never felt that way. I really haven't ever. I mean, it's just one of the things I noticed when we started dating eventually, which was 4 years into college, was there was no drama. It was just really peaceful. It was like he was family.
Yeah.
It's the only way I can really explain it. And I was blissfully happy. I mean, like goofy happy for about a year before we ever came off that high of being in love.
Yeah. Did you ever have a conflict type of relationship before Andrea?
Not a conflict-based relationship. I definitely had some unique relationships, but I wouldn't say they were conflict. I was never most of high school. I never really had that much interest in. I had interest in girls, but after dating for a little bit, it just would fall apart, or my interest would lose. But I did have a more of a little bit deeper and more long-term relationship with somebody, but that wasn't going to go anywhere, and we both knew it.
You guys both knew it at the time.
Yeah, we did.
I wonder if you at least let yourself enjoy it.
I did enjoy it.
That's good.
I enjoyed her, and she enjoyed me. But still, throughout my growing up, I always remembered that relationship with Andrea. In fact, when me and this other young woman were coming apart, I was having a hard time, and my mom knew it, and she said, "Why don't you go see Andrea?" She was at Michigan State at the time, and I was like, "That's probably a good idea," and I did. And because of Andrea and I, our foundation was just a true friendship. We could just really come together and just talk and be open, and I mean, nothing was taboo. I mean, we could talk about anything, and so that was really a good thing. And at that point, I didn't know exactly where our relationship was gonna go.
You mean you and Andrea?
Yeah, I've always wanted to. I was kind of the one that was always like ready to pursue a deeper, more romantic relationship with her, and she was more like, let's slow down, let's just we have something good, let's just kind of keep it friendship, and we both still have a lot of growing to do, and so and I accepted that. And
You think she was right?
I think it could have gone. It would have been different. I think we'd still be together here today, but I think it would have been different.
Yeah.
I think it was good for us because what we did was we kind of grew into ourselves a little bit more alone,
Yeah.
but also kind of realized what we were looking for a little bit when we were on our own. So when we did finally come together, we weren't like a needy relationship, but we were more like two, individual people that really like to be together.
That's the best. That is an adult relationship. So, well, I'm really curious. They always say it's hard to get out of the friend zone, right? I'm curious what it was that allowed. Well, for Ryan, it seems like you were always ready to get out of the friend zone.
Okay, so the thing is, he's making me sound like I was a lot more mature than I really was. I mean, I just kind of always had in the back of my mind that he was my brother's age. My brother Tommy and Ryan are only a couple days apart, and that's my younger brother. Mm-hmm. And girls mature faster than guys. And I did feel, or maybe it was I knew, I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but I did feel that I was more mature. Mm-hmm. And I could tell that he hadn't become a man. Like he wasn't in his young man stage yet. And he was going to get there, I'm sure. But I wasn't thinking that way at the time. I was just not about to be romantically involved with a less mature person. Of course, I get involved with this hard to get older guy. So it's,
just as bad.
So I'm not trying to make myself out to sound more mature, but he was a younger guy.
Yeah.
And I always went for guys that were my age or older.
Yeah.
When I was past my middle school years or whatever, when you start dating.
Yeah.
A lot of girls do. So what had happened was I had been in this difficult relationship and I got out of it, and I was so good for me because I was, like I told you, was in and out for 3 years. And then I got to this point where I didn't have a relationship. And it was a great feeling. And I liked the independence. I liked not being attached to somebody or having all this drama in my life. And I was getting ready to graduate from college. And I was involved in all this extracurricular stuff. I was a leader in some ways. You know, I was really learning a lot. There's a big spiritual part to this too. And I just knew instinctively wouldn't be healthy for me to be in a relationship. So I really took time off from dating. And I had a lot of great friendships.
Sounds like a great time.
Really good friendships with guys and girls. And but I felt like I could learn a lot from all these different people. So I made it a point to develop really rich friendships.
Okay.
And Ryan was one of my rich friendships. And I didn't want to go down the romantic path because I was dedicated to developing myself outside of being in a relationship.
Sure.
So that's pretty much why I don't think we connected. But then we got to this point where we came together to just hang out before spring break, my 4th year. And he invited me up to the cottage where we had met because he was living there.
Good move.
And I had been dating, and I went up to see him. At first, I wasn't sure if I should because I had made this pledge, you know, to myself. But I was like, yeah, of course, I'm going to go visit my good friend. This will be great. So I went up there for spring break, and I was really refreshing because a lot of my guy friendships, which I treasured, eventually the guy would declare his undying love for me.
Right.
And propose or get to the point where he's about to propose or something. And I was like, this is so frustrating. You know, like I really want to not have this happen. So I was kind of afraid that would happen.
Wow, I'm a little afraid it's going to happen too.
So I decided to go up there, and he was a perfect gentleman. Here we are staying alone in this cottage together, and he doesn't try a thing. And we talk for hours and hours. And we went hiking. It's a beautiful place, Alligator Hill and Glen Lake and Little Glen and Sleeping Bear Dunes. He cooks, so he's making fabulous meals. I'm a college kid who is pouring soup out of a can and eating toast with butter for a lot of meals. So I was super impressed with the way he treated me. I was impressed with being able to talk for a long time and not being hit on. I was impressed with, like, I love to hike. He loves to hike. I love the natural beauty. He's a photographer at the time, and he does too. And I'm a spiritual person, and very rooted in my Christian faith. He's a very spiritual person, but he's coming at it from a different perspective, and we just talk a long time about those things. And I remember one day we went to Sleeping Bear Dunes, and we walked down this beautiful sand dune into this area that was protected from the wind. And he laid on his back and was looking up at the blue sky with fluffy white clouds. And I laid my head on his chest. And he put his arm around me, and he said, "You know I've always loved you." And I said, "I know." And from that point forward, we were just together. I didn't even call it dating.
Oh God, that's so lovely.
It was really like I feel like the mechanism clicked right into place and the door opened to my heart.
Yeah.
And then it was I was just totally smitten, and it was over for me. There was no more trepidation at all.
Wow. Had you guys even kissed up to that point?
Yes.
Yeah, but not that trip. I don't think
Not that trip. But, there was times when we were younger, and yeah. we
But it, wow. I'm moved by so many things, but I'm fascinated by the shift. You didn't want men to declare their undying love for you, and then he did. He did. You put your head on his chest, and I guess he knew that was the right opening, and declared his undying love for you. And maybe the answer is obvious to everyone listening, but what was the difference?
Our foundation. So, like a lot of young girls, I made the mistake of being physical before really getting to know somebody as a friend.
Yeah.
So you jump into a relationship, you are too physical. I think your spiritual clarity and your mental clarity can get really foggy fast because you are engaging in behavior that I really feel is sacred, and it's meant for a relationship that's trusting and true, and it's meant for a true a person who it's really a part of yourself that's meant to be shared with somebody who respects you to the deepest core of your being, not somebody who's using you for the selfish pleasure of themselves. So having had made those mistakes and having been hurt by that and not appreciated and not loved the real way that we should be loved on different levels, not just appreciated for our bodies, which will fade, or our beauty, which will fade. I could tell the difference in a very stark and startling way. In that moment, it all crystallized. And of course, he had grown up. I mean, he was a young man now. He wasn't a kid.
And was that all clear for you? What was all coming together in that moment?
Yeah, I think so. Before she came up, before that weekend, I had been going through a lot of growth, personal growth. I had started dealing with some stuff that I needed to deal with from past stuff, and everybody has stuff they got to deal with.
It's
and
the nature of being human.
I decided to face some of that stuff and work with it. And I was coming on the other side of that. I mean, not that it was over, because I'm still dealing with stuff, but I was just really in a place of growth and thirst for growth. And it was maturing me quite quickly. And I knew, like, this was going to be a special time, because Andrea, I knew she was also on that journey of personal growth and spiritual growth. And so I was excited to share with her and spend time with her as this more mature person I was becoming. So I felt it. I felt like this is going to be a unique time together, unlike, because it might have been a year or so before that we seen each other, maybe more.
What about the moment when she laid her head on your chest? Was there a sense of something special in that?
I think there was. I think it was a little more fluid and natural from my perspective, like effortless. And I don't think things were working in my brain like they were with her, with just everything, like she's called it crystallizing. I think, like I said that day, I always had loved her, and I've always respected her. And it was nice to have that opportunity, just to gently let her know that.
That's it for part 1 of my interview with Andrea and Ryan, folks. Thanks for listening. Be sure to tune in Thursday when we'll hear what conflict looks like in their relationship and how their differing experiences of faith have merged in their family. If you liked what you heard on our show today, please subscribe to us on iTunes. It makes a big difference when you do that. Please also consider donating to our Patreon campaign. You may know that we're on a mission to crush shame, and every penny really helps at this stage. You can find our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/together. That's patreon.com/together. If you have any questions or comments, or if you'd like to be on the show, please reach out via one of our platforms. You can find our website at www.together.guide. Our Facebook page is facebook.com/togethershow. Twitter and Instagram are both at together_show, or you can email me at host@together.guide. Our producer is Charlene Goto. Our web designer is Courtney Munna. Our art director and my one and only is Aubrey Pick. Thanks once again to my guests, Andrea and Ryan. Guys, ever since I left, I fantasize about starting a farm of my own every day. I'm not even kidding. It was that good. That's all for today, folks. See you next time.